We're back at everyone's favorite project, the $1 Million Pool. Behind me, we're in the middle of pouring the retaining walls for the supercar garage, and after we're done there, we're gonna move over to the elevator pit and pour those walls. Let's get into the video. In the last video, we poured the lower slabs for both the supercar garage, the elevator pit, and new stairwell, and since then, we put up the forms, added the rebar, set everything up for the new retaining walls to go in both areas. So for these two sets of retaining walls, we have about 6 trucks of concrete. Each truck holds about 10 cubic yards of concrete. A cubic yard is about 4,000 pounds or about 2 tons. So we have 120 tons of concrete just in this stage alone. You know, this is like the 7th or 8th pour that we've done on this whole project. So as you can tell, this is a lot of damn concrete.
I was just talking with the crew about what exactly they did here and how it looks really nice. I think there's a couple things that are good to point out in this formwork system. So we have what we call a 2-sided form here, and inside the form we have our rebar. But in order to hold our system together, there's a couple different components. The first one are these kind of wire ties that you see here. Those are what we call snap ties. And those snap ties essentially go through our formwork system and have these little clamps that hold our wood formwork tight. And that holds it from both sides, so the formwork stays equally spaced through the whole time. Now our actual formwork system has a couple different components to it. We have the face of our form, or the piece of plywood, but what really does the work is everything behind it. These items that are running horizontally we call wailers. Wailers are the first thing that get installed that provide support to the back of the form, but then we also need something to tie them all together. So what we have is we have a stiff back. So we have the face of our form held together by our wailers, which are then supported by our stiff backs. And then we also have our snap ties running through this to make sure that our walls are equally spaced throughout. At the end of the day, the forms get stripped away, so they're no longer here, but the snap ties are actually in the formwork still. That's why we call them snap ties, as we can actually take them and they have these little notches on them. And these notches end up allowing us to take basically a cline or a lineman and just snap them, and they stay in the form. They add a little more support, and then we have a clean wall. That's a little bit of formwork 101 here. We've got face of form, we've got wailers, we've got strong backs and snap ties, and a lot of guys putting the work in place.
Wow, that's amazing. Hey guys, Derek here. I'm the guy behind the camera, and I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsor, ENS Energy Pouches. All right, now ENS isn't just for the guys on site. I use these all the time when I'm editing videos, just like the one you're watching right now. The energy pouches have 50 milligrams of caffeine, the perfect amount to keep me going. And the focus pouches are packed with nootropics, just what your brain needs to keep you locked in. So if you need that little extra focus to power through your day, definitely check these out. So go to enspouches.com, enter code JGB at checkout for 15% off. That's JGB for 15% off. Now let's listen to Grant tell us more about these walls.
When we talk about wall placement specifically, we talk about like how fast can we get it done, right? We need to know how long is this placement going to take, how fast the trucks need to show up, and a lot of that comes down to the formwork and making sure that the strength of what we're putting our concrete into is able to hold the pressure of the concrete. And why are we worried about that? Concrete's really heavy, right? And it exerts a lot of like outward pressure. We're essentially putting it in between a mold and then shoving it full of stuff and asking it not to like pop open like a balloon. So if you end up putting too much force in the space too quickly, you end up with a blowout. And the blowout is the worst case scenario that you can have during a concrete placement. It's like kind of a catastrophe. And what we do is we design and work knowing that we have to adhere to like a certain rate of placement to make sure we don't have a blowout. So what are we talking about when we're talking about a rate of placement? Essentially, it's how many feet we can go up in a certain time based off of the size of our wall and the spacing of our ties. We talked about our ties here and what the temperature is, how fast the concrete's setting up. Because essentially what we're trying to do is, we call them a lift. So we'll place like a lift that can be anywhere from like 3 to 8 feet, depending on a calculation. And that calculation takes into account things like our form spacing, our wall thickness, and also like the temperature. You know, the hotter it is, the faster your concrete sets. So we use those things to kind of calculate this rate of placement, and that placement rate is by list. So based on today being a nice, cool 80 some degrees, and you know, it's pretty warm, so the concrete's gonna set up faster, we can actually place quicker. Our rate of placement today is about 4 feet an hour. And what that means is that we'll do a 4-foot lift in about an hour, hour and a half, and then we'll come back and we'll do another lift. You kind of have this sweet spot where you need to wait so the concrete's starting to set up a little bit so you're not exerting too much pressure.
Because imagine 120 tons and you have one of those forms break loose and you just have all that concrete spilling out the side. I mean, let alone the safety hazard, the money, like concrete just going, you know, down the drain, the environmental hazard. So it could be a disaster.
But if you wait too long, the concrete below it is cured and the concrete that you're setting on top of it isn't consolidating with the concrete. We call that a cold joint. And cold joints are like really bad. You're essentially creating layers in your wall instead of having like one cohesive unit. You know, if we've got a 10-foot wall here, so we've got essentially 3 lifts at about 3.5 feet, and at an hour and a half a piece, that's about, you know, 4.5, 5 hours of placement.
We ended up using the Mini X because our concrete contractor felt it was a little more affordable. They could save some costs, and since the walls weren't super high, the Mini X could stand in place of a boom pump. We literally just used that with its like elephant trunk neck, and we wrapped the pump hose around that so we can lift that up and get it where we want to go. It's actually a little genius way to do it. That little mini excavator, it can move anywhere, and there's a lot of weight running through those hoses.
Just for reference, these hoses are really heavy, right? Not only are they super high strength rubber, but it's also filled with concrete. And the way this works is with the pump is it actually kind of like pumps and churns and steps. So anytime that it pumps concrete, it kind of forces more down the line, and you'll see these hoses jerk a lot. Like when they get concrete, they'll literally jerk like this. And when you're placing a wall, you have to carry all that weight up. So if we didn't have this Mini X today with our strap dragged around it and helping us, you know, this is probably somewhere close to like 1,000 pounds, if not more, of hose that some guy would have to be up there with his shoulder and trying to maneuver it and manipulate it. People get tired, and if this kicks, like we were talking about, someone get hurt. So not only is this a easier way to get the concrete there, it's also a safer way, right? The concrete is arriving without having someone having to hold the pump, and it gives us more control. It gives us like right where the concrete needs to go, but you can see how they have the end of the pump is right at the wall. So these guys literally just need to talk to the operator and they can maneuver this wherever they want, saving him so much time and effort. Small investment for the day, but makes the guy's life way easier, makes the placement way safer and much smoother.
Being out here on these sites every day, it's been really cool because I'm at just the straight beginning stage. So every single time I come out here, I'm learning something new. This is probably my 4th or 5th pour I've been a part of. And it's like, just when you think you're starting to understand it, you start learning so much new stuff. So I've never seen concrete go vertical like this. And it honestly is just, it's completely different just with the form work and the amount that it takes to get these walls up. It's just a totally different process than pouring a slab. And for anyone my age, I just turned 21 a couple weeks ago. I couldn't recommend this path more. Just in terms of getting on site as opposed to going to school. I know I'm very lucky to be in this position that I'm in, but even if it's just joining a crew, like if I didn't get this job, I was gonna do masonry. I was gonna lay brick for who knows how long, just to be around construction and just kind of get my feet wet.
Yeah, so when we finish walls, obviously you have a lot less surface area to finish because they're relying on like your plywood to kind of give you your finish or your formwork. In this case, the only places that they'll have to finish is the top of the wall, which is pretty nice. Usually what we do at the top of walls or areas where we have a 90-degree angle is what we'll do is we'll take this material that has a 45 on it and we'll lay it in the concrete so you'll end up with this like flat 45-degree angle, and we call these a chamfer strip. And so what they'll do is at the top of this wall, they have their grade or the elevation that it stops at set, and they have these little chamfer strips set so that they get these nice clean 45-degree angles. And the reason we do that is because at a 90-degree angle, you're just asking for it to like spall out and chip. So you put that nice 45-degree angle on there and it doesn't finish as much. And then they also have to finish the top of the wall, just like they would a slab, but just a lot smaller. So instead of using a bowl float or a trowel machine, they just have hand trowels and they got to work it in. So it's a little bit more of like a delicate process. Honestly, it's kind of hard because you're only working within this 12-inch section. So finishing out walls is, while it's less work as far as volume, sometimes it's a little bit like trickier.
It took 3 1/4 trucks to get those walls around the supercar garage filled up. Now we're gonna move the Mini X over to the elevator pit and new stairwell. Look at the guys threading the needle with the Mini X. Every time something like this goes down, I'm just so amazed by the ingenuity of the freaking contractors on site. All they do is overcome obstacles. They do not let this crap slow them down. If we don't get this poured, that is thousands of dollars waiting over there in those trucks, and the guys know it, and time is of the essence. So they're maneuvering this excavator down these hallways. There's literally inches on either side. Everyone's cool as a cucumber. They're getting in there, and then they have to go and kind of turn around and get the space they need to get the angles to pour the walls for the elevator. Now, this kind of elevator pit and new stairwell area is a lot more tricky. Look at how much tighter the space is and what's above them, the subfloor of the whole main level, right? So they got to be careful not bringing that arm too high. They got to be careful backing up. They can't really turn around that well. You got to really have your head on a swivel, and the guys did an amazing job at communicating with each other on when to pump concrete, when to stop, when to move the hose, when to back up, when to go forward, you know, all that kind of stuff. Just look at these guys. They are freaking on it. Okay, now getting to the tail end of this pour, everything is looking very successful, but thinking ahead, what is up next? We have to break all of those forms inside and out on all the walls. And then next up is that back side where all of that is below grade for the whole supercar area, the new stairwell, and the elevator pit. That is below ground. This is technically a basement level. So we have to waterproof behind all of those walls. And then if you look, once we break these forms, the space that we need to fill up is monumental. We'll probably bring in 20 or 30 tons of gravel to fill this whole space up. But before we do that, we have to make sure that all of our drainage is good. So you waterproof everything, right? Just make sure that any water coming from the side is not going to get through that concrete and get into the basement. But furthermore, the water hits the waterproofing, rolls down through the gravel because gravel lets the water travel downward, and then into a French drain below. So this pipe is scheduled from our structural engineer to be able to withstand the weight of all the gravel on top of it, but also it cannot fill up. So it's like a perforated pipe that will let in water, but keep out rocks and dirt and other sediment. Then the water goes in and we have to slope all of that to a drainage point. Then we backfill it all, okay? Then after that, we have our last pour, which is going to be some different areas of the foundation where the actual home addition is happening. So this is the main level above the sport car garage. We're gonna connect all of that with a slab, and then we're gonna be moving on to structural steel. And this will be the most monumental, multiple stage structural steel that we've ever done in our career. We've been on this site for over a year, and we've literally just done concrete and demo. I mean, how mind-blowing is that? It's just been absolutely amazing doing this, and I cannot wait to move on to the next stage.
All right, we got the office sisters out here. This is my wife, Melissa, and her sister, Nina. They have said that they want to come out on site more. They want to be more involved in the jobs. So we want to just start introducing them to you guys. Coming out to the $1 Million Pool, like, what do you think? Like, what's your first impression?
It's really hot out here, and these people work really hard. I look at this and I think, wow, I could never do this. I'm just glad it's not me. I'll stick to the office work. That's all I can say.
Does this project live up to the hype?
I think it's bigger than the hype. When you see it in person, it just blows everything out of the water.
But then when you see how big it is, like, how did y'all feel like seeing the actual scale in person?
It's incredible. This is a dream project, I know for you, John, but also for me. I'm so proud. I feel unworthy. This is incredible. This is amazing. We work with amazing people.
It's kind of surreal.
I'd like to test out the pool when it's done. It's in the contract. We get to test it.
Any parties they have, we have to be invited to. So Melissa, so there's like hundreds and hundreds and literally millions of dollars worth of selections that she's dealing with at any time. So Nina does all of our invoicing for all of our accounts receivable and our accounts payable, and then she's tracking all of our jobs with purchase orders Every single transaction is categorized. We know where money's coming in, where money's going out.
I love it. It's so much fun. The best job I've ever had, by far. We have fun every single time we're together, so it's really fun to be out at the job site and see what goes on here. I love being let out of the office. Even though it is hot, I'm pouring sweat.
Who let the dogs out?
Yeah, we're excited. We want to be on site more. This is a really fun part of our job.
Let us out of the office, please.
Please.
I do want to give a shout out to everyone around there following, liking, commenting, sharing from all over the world. I love y'all when you say where you're from, but I need you guys to hit that subscribe button. If you're watching these videos and you haven't subscribed yet, I will find you. Look, we've just crossed 40,000. 50,000 is just a little hop, skip, and a jump away, and then 100,000 is right there. But let's get to 50 first. Please, guys, get out there, subscribe, get the notifications going. You're not going to want to miss this.